Yesterday, we read weather measures in our big book about weather. Good readers read stories more than once to help them understand the text better because when we read a story more than once, it helps our brains pick up on more details. So today, we're going to read weather measures again. This is the front cover, back cover, and the title. The title of this book is What's the Weather? And this is the spine. Now remember, this big book is special because it doesn't just have one story, it has a whole bunch of different stories. And when I open it up, I see the title page. That's just to remind you of the title in case you forgot. And when I turn the page again, I see a special place called the Table of Contents. The Table of Contents tells you where to find things. Remember, our story for today is called Weather Measures. And when I move my finger across the page, I see it's going to be on page 6. So I'm going to go ahead and turn to page 6, and there it is. Weather Measures. This is the title and the author. Remember, the author writes the words, and this text doesn't have an illustrator because they used real photographs instead of drawings or illustrations. Since this is the second time we are reading this story, we will be doing a close read. That means we will be taking a closer look at our story. Our focuses this time will be the main idea and details, as well as classifying and categorizing. Authors organize their writing by presenting a big or a main idea, and then by giving more specific details that help explain the main idea. We will be identifying the main idea as we read. We will also classify and categorize. Good readers organize information so they can see how things are alike, make connections, and remember details. Another thing we will do today is look at strategies the author uses so we can learn to be better writers. Today, we will be looking at the text feature of photographs. In this text, the author used photographs to illustrate the ideas in the text. We will also be looking at language use, specifically declarative sentences. In this text, the author used declarative sentences to give information. A declarative sentence is a statement. It is a telling sentence. It is a sentence that begins with a capital letter and ends with a period. And it's just telling you something. All right, friends, let's get ready to read our story. Essential question. Why is it important to study the weather? Weather Measures by Yvonne Morrison. It is important to know what the weather will be like. If it is going to be sunny, you need a hat. If it is going to be cold, you need a sweater. We can find out what the weather will be like by looking at a weather forecast. Weather forecasters use tools to measure the weather. They use this information to predict the weather. As I reread this text, I am looking at how the author wrote telling sentences to give information about weather. Each sentence tells something new about measuring weather, such as weather forecasters use tools to measure the weather. Each sentence also begins with a capital letter and ends with a period. This helps keep the writing clear and easy to understand. In the past, people did not know how to measure the weather. They looked for signs of rain and wind. They looked for signs of cold weather. They saw that the rain was making puddles. They looked at the wind blowing in the trees. Good readers often identify the main idea of a section and then find details that give more information about that main idea. After reading this page, I see that the main idea is stated in the first sentence. In the past, people did not know how to measure the weather. The rest of the paragraph gives more details or information to help explain what past people did instead. They looked for signs and then they saw rain and wind. Later, people used tools to measure the weather. Then they could see how much rain or snow there had been. They could see how strong the wind was. Wind is air that moves from one place to another. A light wind is called a breeze. Strong winds are called gales. Very strong winds can pull up trees. They can blow roofs from houses. It is important to know how strong the wind is going to be. People use tools to measure the wind. To show where the wind is coming from, people use a weather vane. Remember that as good readers read, they look for ways information can be grouped together in similar ways. Readers classify and categorize information into groups to understand the details better. The author has named different kinds of wind: breezes and gales. I can classify breezes and gales together into the category of wind, because a breeze and a gale are both types of wind. Water is an important part of the weather. It makes up rain and snow. It makes up clouds. Clouds are made of tiny drops of water or pieces of ice. Clouds can help forecasters predict what the weather will be like. A few fluffy clouds usually mean good weather. Heavy, dark clouds often bring rain. There are different kinds of rain. Light rain is sometimes called a drizzle. Heavy rain is called a downpour. When it rains, marks on a rain gauge show how much has fallen. Snow forms when tiny pieces of ice in a cloud stick together. They fall as a snowflake. People measure snowfall using a stick in the ground. The stick has marks on it. This shows how deep the snow is. It is important to know how hot or cold the day is going to be. Temperature is how warm or cool the air is. People can measure the temperature. They use a tool called a thermometer. The number at the top of the red liquid tells the temperature. The sun warms the air, land, and water. Without the sun, it would be too cold for us to live on Earth. When the sun looks low in the sky, the temperature can feel cool. When the sun looks high in the sky, it can feel warm. As I read on, I continue to look for main idea and details to help me understand the most important idea, and the details that give me more information about that idea. After reading this page, I see the main idea stated in the first sentence. The sun warms the air, land, and water. The other sentences give more details to explain this main idea. Without the sun, the earth would be too cold for us. When the sun looks low in the sky, the air can feel cool. When the sun looks high in the sky, the air can feel warm. Weather forecasters predict what the weather will be like. Then, we can be ready for the day. They also give people warnings about bad weather. These warnings help keep people safe. Some bad storms occur more often in certain areas. Sometimes storms become very strong and turn into tornadoes, hurricanes, and blizzards. During storms, do not go outside. It is important to stay safe in dangerous weather. As I reread these pages, I pay attention to the way the author used photographs to illustrate the text. I see the words weather forecasters and see a picture of a weather forecaster in a photograph on page 18. Then, on page 19, I read about 3 very strong storms, and I see 3 photographs that illustrate those dangerous storms. When I see the actual storms and the dangerous conditions in the photographs, I understand why it is important to stay safe in dangerous weather. The photographs add extra impact to the words. I will keep this in mind when I write explanatory text, and I need to illustrate my own words. Yesterday, we looked at how stories can help us learn and understand new words. Let's look at some other new words. I'm going to go ahead and turn to page 13. The word predict means to tell beforehand, or to tell before something happens. It's when you make a guess and you tell it before you know the outcome. Let's see what in our story helps us understand that. Clouds can help forecasters predict what the weather will be like. Clouds can help forecasters tell beforehand what the weather will be like. Oh, I see. They can make better predictions by looking at the clouds, and that word predict means that they're just telling before it happens. Let's look at another word on page 16. The word temperature means how hot or cold something is. Let's see what helps us understand that. Temperature is how warm or cool the air is. Hey, that sentence matched our definition exactly. That's perfect. All right, let's look at another word. The word Earth means the planet on which we live. Let's see what helps us understand that. Without the sun, it would be too cold for us to live on Earth. So without the sun, it would be too cold for us to live on the planet we live on, the Earth. All right, friends, one last word. Our last word is occur. Occur means to take place or happen. A lot of things occur during the school day. A lot of things happen during the school day. Let's see what in our story helps us understand that. Some bad storms occur more often in certain areas. Some bad storms happen more often in certain areas. So it happens or takes place. I really enjoyed reading Weather Measures again with you today. I can't wait to talk more about it in our pods. Do your best to hold all those important ideas in your brain, and I'll see you later.